Stepping into the future, the French president taking in the latest innovations at the Paris Motor Show. Emmanuel Macron met French car makers and said France supported an EU plan to impose high tariffs on imports of Chinese electric vehicles.
This is a difficult time because there is a contraction of the European market and a very strong Chinese competition, and I think we need them at this time in order to protect ourselves and be at a level playing field.
Sales of Chinese electric cars have soared in Europe, but the EU says Beijing is breaking trade rules by subsidizing its car makers. Beijing denies the claim and says the EU is being protectionist. Chinese manufacturers are revealing nearly a dozen new cars at the show. They say that the proposed EU tariffs on electric vehicles are simply unfair. Chinese manufacturer BYD began importing to Europe 3 years ago. It's now one of the top electric car sellers in the bloc. The company says the tariffs will hit European buyers.
I think it's not fair to European consumer because with all the inflation, it's a challenge for them. So we'll continue working hard to deliver the best technology, high-tech technology.
Some EU countries, including Germany, fear China will retaliate with extra duties on their car imports. But in France, where 1 in 3 electric cars sold is Chinese, some car makers hope the move will help.
We have to face it in the same way that we face any hiccups that could appear in the industry. So specifically the Chinese car makers, they are extremely competitive in cost because of their supply chain and things like that. So we have to answer that.
Both the EU and China say they want to avoid a full-blown trade war. One option, says this analyst, could be for Chinese companies to build cars in Europe.
What will be the solution, and it seems that this is what Chinese are doing in Europe, is having their own factories in Europe, as Japan did in the 70s, as South Korea did in the 80s.
For the EU, it's a balancing act. It wants to protect its motor industry and millions of jobs, but also drive its transition to greener, cleaner vehicles into the fast lane. Natacha, Butler, Al Jazeera, Paris.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.